Hi everybody, it's Patty from the Saskatoon Ukulele Players. We recently tried a little Uketorial on Silent Night. Unfortunately, due to technical difficulties, it didn't get recorded. So this works out a little bit better though, because now I can take my time to explain things without interruption, but I also know what kind of questions need to be answered as I go through this. So hopefully this will work out well. I'll put the PDFs in the description, and if you have any questions, I'm always available. Just email me at coordinator@saskatoonukulele.com. So there's two versions of Silent Night that we're going to go through today. One is tab, and then the other is just a lyric sheet with chords, all right? So we're going to start with the tab. For those who have seen our other videos, this is going to be just a quick run through, but for others, tab is literally, it's the second line here. It says tab on it. It stands for tablature. And it's a notation that is essentially a visual representation of the strings of your instrument. So ukulele, of course, has 4 strings, so you see 4 lines. If you decide to start playing guitar, guitar tabs have 6 lines because, of course, guitar has 6 strings. Most of them, anyways. And the way you read it, I always tell people, I mean, you're sitting and playing, right? But the way, I mean, is that top line of your tab your G, or is it your A string? Which string is it? Take your uke in your playing position, flip it up. I'm blocking myself, but the reason I say that is because this is how it's being read, okay? So your top string is the same as the top string in the tab. It's your A, followed by your E, followed by your C, followed by your G. So if you're ever playing, and I actually still do this with guitar sometimes, although I can't flip it up that easily because it's a bigger instrument, just kind of hang your head down and look at the way the strings go. Another option too, if especially if you're just learning, just scribble in that the top string is A, or sorry, the top line is your A, and that bottom string, the bottom line, excuse me, is technically your G, and everything else will fall into place nice and easily. What do the numbers mean though? There's numbers. Those numbers correspond to your frets. So fret, if you see a 1 on, so for example, on Silent Night, our first 2 notes together is string number 2, that's our E string, and it's on the fret 2, or sorry, fret 1. Whereas underneath, you see there's a number 2 on the C string. So you put, and all you're doing is you're playing them together. So we'll get to that part in a second. But the numbers on the lines correspond to your frets. What if you see 0? Don't worry about it. That just means you're playing it open. So the second note on Silent Night is actually a 0 on the G string. So you just play G. Nothing special there. If you don't see anything, any number, you're not playing that string. And this is important because, as I said, with that first note that we're playing just 2 together. So we don't have, you could theoretically, I will stand up so this will be easier to see. You could play them with your thumb like that. I would actually recommend pulling them together. Actually, it's going to end up being a little bit higher. Pulling them together. So your thumb always goes down. No matter what string you have, it will always go down. Your finger, your index finger, your middle finger, and your ring finger usually end up going up, right? And we're going to get a little bit more into that with the next version of Silent Night, but it helps here as well. See how my thumb is always going down and my other fingers are always kind of pulling upwards. When we did our lullaby, Brahms' lullaby last time, we were able to just kind of sweep with our thumb, but it doesn't quite work as well for this one because a lot of times there are strings that we are not supposed to play. So let's just start playing. The big thing to remember is that sometimes you're going to have to stretch across the fretboard. So let's do the first line, and if I run into anything where I'm stretching, I'll stop and I'll let you know what to do because our fingers can only go so far apart, right? So let's try this together. It's 3/4, so I'm going to count. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. And already I'm stretching a little bit. It's not too bad. But you notice instead of using my ring finger down to get that C, and then my middle finger all the way across like that, I'm actually going to use my pinky. Because that just makes it so much more comfortable. It gives me more stretch. You can do it like this. You could even do it like this. But just because of where my fingers were before, I find this a lot more comfortable. And this is going to come up again in the second line. So let's start with the first line again and see how far we get. All right, so 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. I think I missed a bar. Sorry, guys. 2, 3. Uh-oh, it's saying 5 and 6. Oh my goodness. What do I do now? Quick tip. You see, we've got dots here on our ukulele. I think most string instruments have them, except of course for, violin and those types of instruments. But if you've got frets, chances are you're going to have dots. What do they mean? Your first dot on a ukulele is almost always fret 5. Next one will be fret 7, and then let's count 8, 9, and 10. And why exactly they're there, I'm sure there's a story to it. That's not important. What's important is to know which ones are which so that you can get to it fast. So our next chord is the 6 on our A string and the 5. Let me get my fingers right. The 5. Oh, wait. Sorry, that was all the way across. The 5 on our G string. So again, you see how I've got my pinky and I'm using my middle finger to make that stretch. You can use whatever fingers you find most comfortable. I just find that the most comfortable for that. And again, we're going to have a 5 and a 3 in just one more bar over. So I'm going to go back to the beginning of the second line and let's try this from here together. All right. 1, 2, 3. Sorry, let me try that again. We all make mistakes, folks. There we go. So, all the way to 6. And back to 3 quickly. Now, here, the way I'm doing this one, the 1-1-2, I'm actually just doing a mini bar across my 2 strings here, and then laying down the second fret down. So it can get a little muddy. It's definitely something to practice. So let me start from that spot. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3, and then we're gonna do that stretch. 2, 3. And then a nice bar chord. So that's the first 2 lines of the song. The second 2 lines of the song, exactly the same. So work on this. How about we just do it together from just the first 2 lines. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. 3. Big reaches. Lovely. So the reason I did the other version of Silent Night with the lyrics, I tried to keep it in a similar key. So you could actually mix and match if you wanted. You could do Silent Night, maybe those first 2 lines as your introduction, and then break out the lyric sheet. Or you can add picking in between verses. Mix and match. That's the great thing about music, is you can arrange things however you want. So just a note about this other version here. As you'll see, I have included chords for other keys because F is not for everybody, and certainly that B flat chord is not for everybody either. I struggle with it sometimes when it comes to a finger picking. If you're just strumming, you can maybe fake it, but with finger picking, that can be a little bit of a tricky one. So if you want, try out the other keys, put white out over, you know, the old chords and fill it in here. Do whatever you need to do to learn, I guess is what it comes down to. For the purposes of this video, though, I'm going to stick to that F key. And I'm going to pull out my tenor ukulele. My tenor ukulele was recently restrung with low G. Now, obviously, as you can hear with our tab version of Silent Night, I mean, you really need that high G uke. You could probably fiddle around. But yeah, it's just easier on a high G uke, which is what most people have. So what that means on my soprano, and this instrument, by the way, is probably 35 years old, and I actually damaged it. So the tuning, as I'm sure you heard, was just awful. But you can hear my G string. That's a high G. On my tenor now, it's a low G. I just like the sound. It's more richer, and I think it's just lovely. But for the Silent Night, just the chords and the voice, you can use a high G, you can use a low G, you can use whatever you want. You can pull out a different instrument if you want, or you can just sing it, or you can play it and have somebody else sing it, whatever you want. I'm just going to pull out my tenor because I'm more comfortable with it. And as I said, it's a richer sound. which I think kind of sounds nice with this picking pattern. So when you look at the PDF, if you go down to the bottom of the page, there is another little piece of tab. This is only an example. It's, you know, a 2-bar example of a possible finger picking that you can use for this song. You don't have to. Again, you can strum if you want. You can choose another picking pattern. There's a lot of things you can do with 3/4. I thought this was a nice simple one. So to go back to what I said at the beginning of the video, your thumb is typically going down. And in this pattern, it's always going to go down. So your thumb is always going to go downward. And your other 3 fingers are always going to be pulling upwards. So if your thumb is going down on the G, your index finger goes up on the C, your middle finger goes up on the E, and your ring finger goes up on the A. So you get a sound like this. And we're going to go back down now, right? So you go up. And keep your hand, your fingers loose. Keep your arm loose. I know I even tense up sometimes. Try not to, like, I can't even pluck it that hard. Try to keep your hand close. And don't think of it as pulling out. Think of it as plucking down or up. So from this angle, sorry, I'm not used to playing like this. See, I'm not going too far. My hand isn't moving. Just keep it nice and light. So our first chord on Silent Night is your F. How does that fit into the song, though? 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 3. So that's a pattern you could spend time in front of the couch, you know, just commercial comes on, mute, just go over it with your fingers, get comfortable with that motion. Another thing you may want to do with your music is to mark where 1 is. And the reason for that is that your 1 is always going to be on your G string, or again, if you're using the soprano, right? So if you always know where your 1 is, if you make any mistakes on the other strings, you know where home is. So feel free to mark that on your page. Again, whatever you need to get to where you want to be. So how is this going to sound all together? So silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round flat. B flat is tricky. It is the bar across your A and E strings, and then I always kind of think of it as laying it on the next frets. If you can't get that nice tone, even one of my strings is a little off, if you can't play that, try the other key. It works beautifully in other keys. Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright. And that's G. Isn't that beautiful? So choose whatever key works for you. Work on that, you know, just getting your fingers loose. Because you know what? When more complicated patterns come up, at least you have some base. You have some understanding. Again, I'll go back to the F. You got that finger feel going, right? So those are the two finger picking versions of Silent Night that I thought would be interesting to everybody. Again, these songs are on our website, saskatoonukulele.com, but I will put the links in the descriptions. I hope I've covered everything for you. If I haven't, coordinator at saskatoonukulele.com is where you can find me. If you go to our website, Saskatoon Ukulele, of course there is a form that you can fill out to join our newsletter. Usually I try to send out the newsletters on Wednesdays. For our jams on Sunday afternoons, 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. So we've been having an absolute blast at our jams all year round. We will be doing both versions of Silent Night, I think pretty much for most of December, just because they are quite pretty. We've also got a ton more Christmas songs in our songbook and just keep adding more and more. So I hope you enjoyed this video today. I hope it was informative. And, you know, just keep on strumming. Thanks, everybody. Bye now.